Namaste, and welcome to Acharya Shunya's podcast, Shadow to Self, a show created to inspire you to step out of fear and darkness into a place of freedom and empowerment. In each episode, she'll explore humanity's deepest questions about your relationship with yourself and others, illuminated by the ancient and non-dual wisdom of the Vedas, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita. Keep listening.
Welcome to another episode of Shadow to Self Season 2. This is Acharya Shunya, and my guest today is a yogini sannyasin, a renunciate from India, from the banks of River Ganga in Rishikesh. She is none other but the renowned Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, a monk, an author, a teacher, a speaker, and a humanitarian. Originally from Los Angeles, California, and a graduate of psychology and a PhD student at Stanford University, she has spent the last 30 plus years in India studying the Vedic scriptures and bringing forth the Vedic tradition and helping promote it, disseminate it, and support it. She has been given the President Biden's Award for a lifetime of service, and she serves on the United Nations Advisory Council on Religion. I'm happy to say that I have known her for several years. She is also a friend, and she's someone I deeply respect and value her opinion and her teachings. She is the best-selling author of two books. The first one that came out a few years ago is From Hollywood to Himalayas. And the book that she's now promoting and is on a book tour in America for is Come Home to Yourself. She sent me an advance copy of the book, and I really appreciated it. It contains gems from her oral satsangs over many, many years. And these gems, these beautiful lucid teachings are going to support you in your life. I hope you read her book. I hope you benefit from her teachings. And right now, when I'm about to bring her on, you enjoy her presence and her energy just as much as I do. So let's meet Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati. Sadhvi ji, welcome. Welcome to Shadow to Self. It is such an honor to have you here as a guest to tell us about your book.
It's so beautiful to be with you. I am so happy to be with you and with your whole community.
Come Home to Yourself. What a profound title. And I've been spending the past few days with your newest book. And this book really is an invitation, Sadhvi ji, to return to something deeper. And how do you do this? Tell me more around how do you carry with such ease, such simplicity, your entire life. The woman who came to India looking for delicious vegetarian food and has stayed on to become the executive director of perhaps India's largest, most functioning, most active ashram by the banks of the river Ganges in Rishikesh, India, who oversees a variety of humanitarian projects, who teaches meditations, lectures, who counsels individuals and families, and finds the time to, serve in the United Nations, counseling and advising them on spiritual humanitarian matters, maybe even spending some time with the World Bank. And then you write this book, which has these beautiful, soft flavor of leaves falling in autumn.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Unburdened, simply. How do you do this?
Grace and surrender are the two main things. A good sense of humor comes in really handy. I take my human psyche, the mind that says, oh my God, this, or oh my God, that, or this is too much, or I can't possibly, or all of the stories that we all hear in our mind that actually keep us from doing things. I take that part of me very lightly, sweetly, compassionately. I don't, push it away or try to annihilate or something. But I've spent so much time in the world of psychology, both on the studying it level. It's what I did my undergrad in. It's what I was getting a PhD in when I came to India, and also on the receiving end of it. So I feel very deeply intimate with the workings of my psyche that work opposite to actually where my higher self knows that I'm needing to be. So that sense of humor is really helpful when, some aspect of the mind comes up with why I can't, or why I'm not good enough, or why it's too much, or why this, or why that. And just noticing it, sort of giggling at it, engaging in kind of a light, fun conversation with it. But otherwise, the rest is just grace and surrender. It's surrendering of the stories that I'd always told myself, as we all have narratives and stories that we tell ourselves about who we think we are and what we think we're able to do and what we think we need and what we think we want and what we think is going to make us happy and what we're victims of and why we're not able to step up to the plates of our lives. These are stories that we tell, and surrender is a huge part for me of just actively every day surrendering. My prayer every day is, oh God, make me more empty. Just remove from me every last vestige of ego, of attachment, of story, of all of that keeps me stuck. And when you do that, spirituality works the same way, of course, that science does. They're not separate. And in physics, we say the universe hates a vacuum. You create enough of a low pressure zone and something's gonna come in. And when you empty yourself, grace flows. And that's really what I have found is just, it's about emptying, it's about surrendering, and it's about allowing grace to flow. And when your mind kicks in with its self-sabotaging games, you smile at it, you giggle, you engage it in some light banter, and just don't pay very much attention to it.
For those of my listeners and the followers of this podcast, it's really important if we just look at your journey from all the way from Hollywood, where you were this unsuspecting psychology PhD student, I think, right? You were about to submit your dissertation at Stanford. And you didn't go to India looking for a guru, looking for awakening. You say that you were neither religious nor even identifying, how people say, as in your words, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. You were this fun girl, probably the word you used was giggling sometimes, and that part of you stayed, which is really beautiful and precious. So you were this lighthearted person who was taking a break before she puts her head back in the books and submits her dissertation. And you found yourself. You found your home. You came home to yourself. Ma Ganga called you. Your guru found you. All of India spoke to you when it said, you must stay. Tell us that story and tell us how this orchestration of events, which are mystical at best, which really cannot be understood logically, we really have to appreciate them from our heart, have led to the genesis of this book and all its beautiful content, which brings such soothing relief to the souls that are suffering in samsara.
So the journey has been incredible. It's been a journey of surrender and of grace. And it's interesting, it doesn't make, as you say, logical sense, because that which we have come to think of as reasonable, as logical, is actually in so many cases so disconnected from the power and the grace that is available to us in the universe. And so stories like this seem illogical, whereas people working 80, 90-hour work weeks to just make money because they think that money is going to make them happy, that seems logical and reasonable.
Yes.
So it's an interesting statement on the world that we live in today. But yes, as you say, I was in the midst of my PhD. I had graduated undergrad from Stanford, and then I was doing my PhD in pediatric neuropsychology, and came to India quite reluctantly, just on an adventure trip. I loved to travel. I had been in classes continually. My PhD program ran through the summer as well. And so for the previous few years, I had just been in continual classes and knew that I needed a travel break. And so we came to India with backpacks, and I had just taken that one quarter off of school and came with backpacks looking for, for me, good vegetarian food, which was a prime reason that I had agreed to come, and not looking for spiritual awakening, not because I was against it, of course, but just because it was never something that I had felt was part of my life. It wasn't something I had ever felt I deserved or was worthy of or was good enough for or pure enough for. It seemed like there must be a whole host of prerequisites that one would need to have in order to be spiritual, in order to have spiritual experiences. So I had never even thought of myself as someone who would have these sorts of experiences. And I stand on the banks of the Ganga River in Rishikesh right after getting there, and had such a powerful, powerful spiritual experience of awakening, of opening, of transformation, of divine union. And I knew this is where I'm meant to be. And it was a knowing from within inside. You can talk about dharma, you can talk about purpose and grace and divine, the divine voice, and all of these ways of knowing where we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to do. And it was just so clear to me. This is where I'm meant to be. I have come home. And that was almost 29 years ago. September will be 29 years. So we're going on 30 years that I've been there. And it's been really an experience of coming home to myself. I always thought that it would be something outside that would fix me or make me enough or make me whole, make me happy, make me complete. And whether it was relationships, whether it was romance, whether it was A+ on exams that made my ego feel really good, whether it was things to buy that you'd go shopping for. Whatever it was, I always had thought there would be something from outside that would fill me and complete me. And this has been an experience of really realizing that ultimately the path goes inward. And yes, of course, guides and gurus and mentors are of critical importance, because what they're doing is sending you back into the truth of yourself. So my memoir, which came out a few years ago, is called Hollywood to the Himalayas. And it actually shares that entire journey that you're asking about, of life in Hollywood, growing up, the struggles, the challenges, even the trauma that I experienced in early childhood, and then the way that impacted my life as an adolescent in my early 20s with addiction and depression and an eating disorder and all of the ways that I was struggling. And then, what happened when I came to India, and all of that just amazing and exquisite healing and transformation. And the experiences at that point, it was 25 years I'd been in India, and the experiences there of what's it like to be a disciple? What's it like to be a woman in, a man's world of religion? And what's it like to be celibate? And all of that.
And so what's it like to be a white woman in a in a male-dominated field in India? Yeah,
absolutely. So all of that was what I shared in Hollywood to the Himalayas. And now this week, Come Home to Yourself is coming out, which is a book of teachings. It's all of the questions that people from all over the world bring in to the satsang, the spiritual question and answer session that I have the beautiful blessing of leading in Rishikesh at Parmarth Niketan every night. And questions that arise when I'm traveling all over the world. And, it's interesting. It doesn't matter really where people are in their lives, what their age is, what their socioeconomic status may be, what their race may be. The questions are really the same, and they're pervasive, particularly in America, particularly across the Western world, of people being lost and looking for ways of navigating the challenges of day-to-day life, families, work, to-do lists, all of that as soul and spirit in this human body. And how do we navigate that with grace and with compassion, and questions around finding peace and joy and freeing ourselves of anger and resentment and grudges and frustration and fear. All of these sorts of questions that are coming up all over the world, and how to get unstuck. So many of us feel so stuck, and this comes up a lot. So the book is filled with all of those questions. I had so many people say to me, what you've shared has transformed me. And that for me, of course, is a huge blessing, because the lessons transformed me. And to be able to then share those, to be a channel of that with other people, is such a privilege and such a gift. And so people have been saying this and started saying, you really should put these all into a book so that people all over the world, wherever they are, if they can't come to Rishikesh, if they're not, tuning in to satsang on YouTube or wherever they may watch it, like how are people going to get these answers? So it's been really a joy to put the book together.
I don't have the book in front of me, but I remember reading about how you wrote how a caterpillar doesn't lament every day, right? Comparing itself to a centipede with 100 legs.
Yes.
It makes its journey anyway. And that was so inspiring.
Yeah. And this is something that's really important for us. And sorry to interrupt there. It's
please.
Just such an important point, because people, especially they hear my story and they say, oh my God, well, you had this really powerful experience and it made you know what your purpose was. And what if we don't have experiences like that? And how do we know? And how do we tune into that voice? And for me, what I realize is there's a wisdom in the universe, and it tells everything in the universe what to do and how to do it. And it tells the caterpillar how to climb the tree and weave a cocoon, and then how to fly as a butterfly. It teaches seeds how to sprout and become trees. And so I know that wisdom is there for us. The problem, I think, is that we become like that metaphoric caterpillar who is so busy lamenting that he doesn't have 100 legs like the centipede or 1,000 legs like the millipede, and it's so unfair, and misses then that signal or that call that says, climb the tree, weave the cocoon.
And that the universe has provided it just the right legs to do what it has to do.
Exactly. And so if we can just quiet the mind from the nonsense, from the constant sense of not enoughness, not rightness, the desires, the fears, that's what our practice of meditation is for, is to anchor us and ground us and tease away all of those voices that are not self, so that we can then finally hear that voice of self.
In the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 6, as you're well aware, in the verse 42, Bhagavan, Lord Krishna, clarifies to souls that Athva yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam etadhi durlabham taram loke janma yadidrisham. That you do your work sincerely, you be on this yogic path, and then I'll take care of you in your next lifetime. Either you will be born in your guru's home, or I will make sure that your home is where the guru within you thrives. This is just a rough translation. But what I'm pointing to is this, that this is your destiny also. This is what really, when I look at your life at the Parmarth Niketan, where I've had the pleasure of staying a couple of times and being your guest, and where I have spent solitary hours by the Ganga myself, and I thought, Sadhvi Bhagawati's life far away somewhere, in the suburbs of Hollywood, to now being here, located here, and leading satsangs on a daily basis, not just to a few hundred, but to a couple of thousands every day. And then those satsangs becoming your latest book, Come Home to Yourself. All of this is also reassuring to spiritual seekers at some level, that you do your work, you do that inner work, and then come a lifetime, it won't take much for you to awaken. You write,
yeah.
Right?
We don't even have to wait till next lifetime.
You don't even have to wait till the next lifetime. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we don't even have to wait. That awakening is within us. It's just that our own minds are blocking it. There's a beautiful teaching that says, Man eva manushyanam karmabandha mokshayo. The mind is the key, the master key. Do you want to be in bondage, or do you want to be awakened? The mind is the key. And so working with the mind, and it's not easy, but working with it. We work with it in meditation. We work with it in japa, in chanting. We work with it in yoga, work with it in prayers, work with it in seva, work with it in just, what we think of as jnana yoga, a path of wisdom, of inquiry, really saying to yourself questions. I'm a constant questioner of myself. If I get upset over something and that self-righteousness comes in with, well, I deserve to be upset because, oh my God, that person was so objectively awful and obnoxious and rude.
Make a list. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And I immediately stop, or as soon as I can gather my spiritual wits, I stop and say, is it worth it? Simple question. Is it worth it? Not the berating of the self of, oh my God, look at you, you're a spiritual person and here you are so negative. Not that. Just a simple question. Is it worth it? Is holding on to this anger worth it? Sure, you are entitled to it. Sure, if you ask 100 people, 100 of them would agree that that person did something wrong and rude, obnoxious, harmful. But what do you gain from that? We're not here on planet Earth to win a court case or to have a great excuse for why we're miserable or why we're a drug addict or why we're an alcoholic or why we are not able to fully embrace the divinity of ourselves. Life is about so much more than just, winning a court case and having a great excuse. So that freedom, that liberation is absolutely possible in this lifetime, but we have to be prepared to let go of the story and the games of our mind. And, you were just at Parmarth, Niketan on the banks of Ganga. And one of the things that I share all the time there is Ganga is the giver of liberation. That's what people go to her for. They bring the ashes of their loved ones to immerse in her waters so that, the loved one may attain moksha, liberation. And that's beautiful and it's wonderful. And of course it works. But why wait? Why wait that you're going to die and then your loved ones are going to bring your ashes to Ganga and then you will be liberated? Well, why not now? Because she doesn't free us of the body. There's this great misconception that the body is the problem. And people say, when I leave the body, jab sharir shant ho jaye, when my body is finished, then I will have liberation. But the body is not the problem. That doesn't make any logical sense. I'm not trapped because I have an elbow or a knee or an ankle or a nostril or an earlobe. Those are not the problems. They have nothing to do with my being stuck. Every bit of the reason I'm stuck is in my mind. And leaving your body doesn't free you of that. We know that when the soul travels from life to life, the subtle body goes with it. Man, buddhi, ahankar, those impressions on the mind. So if you're stuck in this lifetime and you're not doing the work to be free, don't think that just by having your body burned, somehow you're going to be free.
Definitely. And I think I want to vouch for this book that, those mini moksha moments, we don't have to wait to die. Yes. That misperception that is taken hold of the masses in the Hindu community, that moksha is something after life. Moksha is a here and now kshaya of moha, the end of delusions and illusions. And satsang and prayer and meditation, as you say in the book, are the sure shot pathways to leading a liberated, ego-free, unlimited kind of expanded life. And I really want to say that I was reading your book. At least I went through the intro and a couple of chapters in preparation for our meeting today, our discussion today. I thought, wow, you just seamlessly go from one topic to another, even though they are under subheadings like life purpose or renunciation or loss. You've talked about that and, relationships. they still interweave. And I'm coming to this really important topic because it's becoming a center point of my life and my community, which is like I see the amalgamation of the 4 yoga pathways: bhakti, karma, upasana, jnana. Upasana is also raja. All of them are interwoven. And as you know, and as you are traveling through the West promoting this book, that how yoga has been reduced to more of asana, and the other stuff is given some lip service. And from a philosophical wisdom perspective, the Western yoga milieu is quite satisfied with the Yoga Sutras and rarely embarks into the Gita or the Upanishads. Whereas you are leading this life and your message contains all 4 yogas. I found in this book bhakti. I found, selfless, Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, this dedicated karma yoga. Jnana yoga is woven throughout. And then your emphasis upon sadhana, meditation, upasana, or Raj Yoga is right there. So it's all interwoven. Like in a paragraph, I can find all 4 yogas. I don't even need chapters or separate sections. Living these 4 yogas is the call of the Sanatana Dharma, the Vedic tradition, the original yogic seers asked for that. And we can lament that yoga has been diminished, but I don't want to, because I feel like yoga is really only 200 something years old in the West. And probably it is for teachers like yourself and myself from the tradition who are now going to take it to the next level of maturity. So one, I want to tell all my listeners and my students and my community that in this book, you will find the living yoga prescription of all 4. So thank you so much for really holding the roots of yoga intact in a beautiful, graceful, non-didactic way. And thank you for that.
Well, thank you for noticing and for picking up on that. It really is something that I do very intentionally work toward in my sadhana, in my life, to feel them overlap and interweave. The Raja Yoga part, that's obvious. That's okay. Let's sit down and close our eyes and meditate and do those practices. But the Gyan and the Bhakti and the Karma Yoga, for me, it really is about moving through the world. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is so abundantly clear, like act, stand up and act. There's not one line I have found in which he says, oh, Arjun, you're not a human doing, you're a human being, like stop doing and just be. What he teaches is find the being in the doing. Your hands are doing. Your legs are doing, but your mind has to stay anchored, grounded, connected in that being. Whereas here in the West, a lot of us really misunderstand teachings around human beings and human beings.
Compartmentalization is going on.
Exactly. And there's so many teachings that it really saddens me to see where it's all an emphasis of like, don't do, just be. Whereas the Gita makes it so clear, you can't help but do, like you're doing anyway. You sitting on the couch with a beer in hand, watching a soap opera, thinking that you're just being rather than doing. You are doing, and you are accruing karmic repercussions from all of what you are doing or not doing. And so for me, it's really about how can I live my life doing, serving, engaged, showing up to every minute and every moment, but from a place of bhakti, from a place of jnana, and from a place of total surrender.
And you've written so beautifully, and it really touched me. You know how in bhakti also there is a compartmentalization that we see, oh God's in this altar or this temple or in this deity. But you've mentioned how we don't have to, choose between people versus God, but we have to serve the God through the people. So
Absolutely.
great. That was so simply put and beautiful.
Well, thank you. And it's so true. It's so true. Sometimes people struggle with bhakti and they say, how do I love God? How do I find love for God? It doesn't flow easily. Some people are very blessed and they're just by nature filled with bhakti. And for others of us, that bhakti has to be cultivated. And the beautiful truth is that the universe is divine. The Upanishads, remind us and teach us, Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam, Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat. The entire universe is pervaded by the divine. So if bhakti doesn't flow in your heart for a particular aspect of the divine, don't worry. Love a tree. Love your grandmother, love your child, love your spouse, love your friend, love anything. As long as what you're loving.
And for some people, sorry to interrupt.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say what as long as what you're loving is the essence. Where we get stuck is we love form. And that's lust. Lust isn't just, when it's a sexual thing. If what I love is just your form, that's lust. If I really love you, and I love content and essence, not just form. So I love you as your body changes through the years. I love you just as much when you wake up in the morning feeling sick and looking awful as I do when you are like put together. It doesn't impact how I feel about you. And I've loved you for all of these years as your body has changed. Well, so what we're loving in that case is essence. We're loving content, not form, which means
unchanging essence. Yes.
Exactly. It means we're loving the divine in that person. So as long as you can love, really love, just recognize that what you are loving in that being or that tree is the divine.
Thank you. And I also felt that your writing gave clarity to those who only want to love God but are uncomfortable with society and its turbulence or its toxicity at times. So they drop the sharp contrast between samsara and Ishvara, or the world, Jagat, and God. But what your writing was clarifying was that if God is in everything and everywhere, Ishava Sedam Sarvam, that teaching, then you can attempt to find that hidden essence through everything. And so it brings about a greater harmony between God and the world and, the seeker. They're not on three different points. The seeker, God on one end, the world on one end, and the seeker separate, making choices. But it all comes together. And I found that invitation and I thought, wow, these are deep teachings of bhakti, but they have been put forward simply. And so when I say simply, it means it's easily understood by the average person. And that's why I'm really excited about the book, because it brings forward compassionate teachings from you, Sadhvi. Thank you so much for that.
Of course. I'm so glad that it touched you. That's the aim. That's the goal is, people are suffering so much, and the solutions to that suffering are simple. They're not easy to implement, but the teachings actually are simple, and it has to do with this shift in how we think and how we identify and how we understand and how we interpret. So yeah, I definitely tried to fill the book with all of the different questions that span the whole range of challenges that we face as soul in this human body. So thank you so much. I'm so glad that it touched you so much. And
as we come to the close of this conversation, and I'm no doubt we have decided there would be a second one later in summer, I just want you to share the release date of your book, because I'm not exactly sure when this episode will release, but at whatever time my listeners will catch this episode, they'll know the book is out. Either they can pre-order or order the book. And secondly, if you could just share some information on how our listeners can find out more about you, learn from you, and generally benefit from your presence on earth.
Sure. So the book actually launches on Tuesday. So that's Tuesday, April 15th.
Okay.
So, but even if you go on Amazon even today and order it, it'll be with you by Tuesday. So whenever people are listening to this, just go online and order it and you'll have it right away.
Wow.
And and my memoir also that I mentioned, Hollywood to the Himalayas, is also, of course, available on Amazon. So if people are interested in diving deeper into the actual journey that brought me to India and the lessons interwoven in the story, then they should also get Hollywood to the Himalayas. And in terms of learning more, finding out more, so I, as you know, lead satsang every night in Rishikesh. We stream everything live on YouTube. So the evening satsangs plus lots and lots of videos are on my YouTube channel, which is just Sadhviji. It's Sadhviji. And that's also my Instagram handle. And we share videos there every day as well of teachings. Of course, you have to get them really, really fast and really, really short on Instagram. So for people who like the really fast, really short sort of drops, those are there on Instagram. The longer teachings are there on YouTube. And of course, they can go to my website, which is also just sadhviji.org. And again, that's sadhviji.org, and learn more about all of the beautiful programs and projects that we're doing at Parmarth Niketan, and get access to my courses and other writings and all of that.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to sit down with you again, and this time talk about your latest book. So it's been uplifting, informative, and it's been a joy. Thank you so much, Sadhviji.
So much love to you, and I hope that you come back very soon to Rishikesh and bring all of your students and all of your community to Parmarth Niketan, and then we can actually sit together in person on the banks of Mother Ganga.
I will plan on doing that. That's an invitation one can't turn down.
Also, by the way, sorry, I just realized as we're talking about sitting together in person, that another way people can connect is I've got a book tour coming up starting next week, where I'm going to be traveling across the US until the end of May. So people can see the schedule of my book tour. It's on my website. And join in lots of different cities around the country. It would be wonderful to see people. All of the events, of course, are free and open to everybody.
And for sure, I remember two of the places you are visiting, which is the Bahamas, Shivananda Ashram, and the Kripalu Institute.
Yes.
So
I'll be in the Bahamas the 20th to 22nd of April, and then in Kripalu the 25th to the 27th of April. And
I was just telling you that I think I'm just following you in both these places. You go and then I go. But I'm going to miss you. I wish I was there at the same time. And then we could have sat next to the ocean. But it is such a joy to have your wisdom, your friendship, your presence in my life. And I know my students and my readership community, everyone will be just joyous at this episode. Thank you so much, Sadhvi ji.
Thank you so much. And so much love to you always.
If you loved this episode, there's a way to show your love. Just go to acharyashunya.com and make a donation to support the production of this podcast. You can also rate, review, and share this episode with others, live on YouTube every month. Browse her online wisdom school for her latest course offerings, and thanks for listening.